it's people who are not relying on the teacher to tell them everything, or someone to tell them things, but people who can work things out for themselves. Um, One of the problems with the way mathematics is taught commonly in both primary and secondary schools, and indeed even at university, is it's very much a here's what you should be doing, now go away and practice it. Whereas in the case of powerful learners, it's possible to pose problems and situations for them that they solve for themselves. And that's the people who can do that, meaning the learners who can do that, are the powerful learners that we're looking for. And I guess I would say to people, if you're thinking about powerful learners, they're people who don't need to be told, and they can build connections between mathematical ideas for themselves.
I think a powerful learner is a student who can place whatever it is they're doing in some kind of context, understand the need or the history behind siloing English and math over here and so on, but I don't see real life playing out that way. I think we're much better off giving them real problems to solve, or in a best case scenario, they actually go out and find the problems. And those problems, if they have any reality base at all, are going to require numeracy and literacy and the ability to use media and all sorts of things.
In numeracy, I think we're seeing that the predictors of success in numeracy are perhaps the things, not necessarily things that we'd be doing. So, in the early years, we know that being able to recognise numbers is not nearly so much a powerful predictor of being a powerful learner in numeracy as things like number sense and spatial awareness. A kind of a feel for that's proportional reasoning. Before we teach and instruct proportional reasoning, that we've got a feel for it. When we get to fractions, teaching them the mechanics of fractions doesn't work so well if the kids haven't got a feeling for fractions. If you can take a pile of rice and say, okay, let's split that into a third and 2/3, into two halves when we start. So we know that they're getting a feel for what that might look like. So when they're doing the fractions in the numeracy, what they're doing is they're formalising an idea that they've already got. They're making this fuzzy idea of fractions that they feel for into something that's a bit sharper, rather than trying to do it all at the same time. So those circles that we draw with the pies, drawn out, that's a great representation, but it doesn't necessarily give you a feel for. I'm not linking that back to my feeling. That's fractions to me, pies in a circle. So I think for me, feel for spatial awareness, number sense. What's your feeling of sixness? What does 6 mean to you? That, I think, is absolutely crucial.
It's not all about looking up on the internet and finding books. You can also use your mathematics skills and literacy skills for stuff like cooking, because you need measurements and you need to know how much sugar in a cup, or flour, or how many eggs, and all that.
If you're doing maths, you will get stuck. You'll need a sounding board. If you are stuck, you might need to share with somebody, listen to what their point of view is, listen to their perspective. It's fascinating always to compare your strategies, and from comparing there'll be some refining. So I think the kids need to talk to each other, they need to communicate, they need to share, they need to critique. If they get 2 different answers, what better way for them to learn than to look and say, I think we should probably both get the same answer to this. I think there is only one answer, particularly to the pizzas problem. There is only one answer. Why do we have such variance? And to start comparing those mathematical models. And then communicating with others, the reflection, the metacognition, the feedback, the feed forward. What worked? Will it always work? What would you do differently next time? And I guess eventually we want those kids to have those questions at the back of their minds that they ask themselves automatically. They don't need the teacher to prompt anymore. It's so much a part of their makeup that these are the questions that they have available.
A lot of the neuroscientists who look into children's early learning talk about the serve and return interactions, where you serve something up to a child and they'll serve something up and you return it, and you have that two-way conversation, the reciprocal conversations and thinking, sharing the thinking, joint attention in your thinking. Lots and lots of talking, so children develop a big vocabulary early, and there's lots of research to say that children that have a big vocabulary early do better as they go on. And that's not just talking with them, but rhymes, singing, and joining them in, including them in family and community events, not excluding them.
Let's say if you're stuck on a really hard math problem or sort of anything, you could, if no people know what it is, you could use different strategies like drawing up graphs or trial and error. You could find patterns.
I think in literacy, one of the things that we see is, again, this problem with the surface level and smashing through that surface level. And I think, again, if we think about some of those cognitive skills, and if we build those cognitive skills, how do they serve literacy? As soon as you do anything other than basic recall, you're requiring this working memory. If I'm doing any comprehension, any inference at all, I've got to be holding in my mind what I've just read and linking it to what I'm currently reading. If the difference between understanding a word and understanding a sentence is a big step, because we're really asking them to construct an understanding of the sentence rather than recall the definition of the word. And that's quite different. We're really asking them to take control of their interpretation of this sentence. And that's a big deal. And again, I think we can do all the comprehension teaching, all the inference teaching we want to, but if we're not making the most of the kids' cognition, if we're not making the most of that working memory, we're not empowering them again. And so we see that same differential between literacy, or that same relationship between literacy performance and working memory.
And we are very definitely at the point where we have new literacies, and they're just as important as those involving letters and numbers. And we need students to be able to craft what I call media collages, which they bring together video and images and so on and put it together in a way that makes sense to an audience. And then there are literacies associated with each one of those. So what makes a photograph a good photograph, or a video a good video? Our students are going to make media. The question we have yet to address is, to what degree do we want to be involved in helping them do a good job of that? And it's still seen largely as an extra, or sort of foo-foo that you do if you've got your real work done. And that's just not the case anymore. It's a real literacy, and we all depend upon it. And everybody who gives me the conservative line about literacy will go from that conversation with me to the internet and pull up a page that uses all those literacies. And the irony there, or the missed opportunity for understanding on their part, is just absolutely overwhelming. So I don't know how to convince people that the literacies we all use now are those that our students should be using and learning in school, but we are not there. It's still letters and numbers.
Yeah.
It is not images and moving images and combining all those in a way that aligns the media and has it make sense to an audience.